Hank Riley wiped the grease from his calloused hands, staring at the rust-eaten 1974 Volkswagen Beetle slumped in the junkyard lot like a forgotten relic. The auctioneer's voice still echoed in his ears. "Sold for $160 to the bidder in row 5. Bidding wars, none. Just pity bids from tire kickers who saw a rolling scrap heap." Hank had scraped together the cash from overtime shifts at the garage, his life savings dwindling faster than a leaky radiator. This Beetle was his gamble, a project car to flip for rent money, or so he told himself. He hooked the tow chain to his battered pickup, the engine groaning under the weight as he dragged it back to his single-wide trailer on the edge of Milford, Ohio. Dusk painted the sky in bruised purples, the air thick with the scent of damp leaves and distant bonfires. Hank's mind raced with calculations. New tires, bodywork, engine rebuild. It could net him $5,000 if the stars aligned. But something nagged at him. The way the trunk lid hung crooked, seals cracked but oddly sealed tight with ancient tape. He chalked it up to rust. Or paranoia from too many late nights nursing cheap coffee. As he circled the car under his floodlight, prying at the latch with a crowbar, a chill snaked up his spine. The trunk popped open with a hiss, revealing not the expected tangle of jumper cables and oil cans, but wooden crates stacked neat as a banker's desk. Hank's breath caught. He tugged one free, splinters biting his palms, and pried the lid. Coins spilled out, hundreds gleaming under the bulb like captured sunlight, not quarters or dimes. Rare beauties, Mercuries from the 30s, Morgans from the Wild West, stacks of gold sovereigns etched with king's long dust. If stories like this hidden fortune keep you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button right now, smash the like, share with a friend who loves a good twist, and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Could be anywhere in the world. Hank's pulse hammered like a loose piston. He scooped a handful, feeling their impossible weight. These weren't fakes from a flea market scam. The edges showed wear from real pockets, mint marks whispering pedigrees from Philadelphia and San Francisco. He grabbed his phone, jers fumbling, and snapped photos before the rational part of his brain kicked in. What if someone saw? The yard boss? Cops on a routine pass? He shoved the crates back, slamming the trunk, heart thudding against his ribs. Inside his trailer, the single bulb swung shadows across faded posters of Woodward Avenue cruises. Hank spread coins on his Formica table, sorting by era. A 1913 Liberty Head nickel stared back, worth a house on its own if authenticated. His reflection in the polished surface looked haunted. 42 years old, divorced twice, garage foreman by day, dreamer by night. He'd sunk everything into that shop, only for the economy to choke it dry. This was a lifeline, or a trap. He paced. Boots scuffed the linoleum. Call the authorities. They'd seize it, auction it off for the public good, leaving him crumbs. Sell underground, risk fences who'd vanish with the haul. Appraisers first, test the waters. Dawn broke grey and relentless as he loaded a dozen coins into a duffel, driving to Columbus under a spitting rain. The coin shop on High Street looked legit, glass cases of rarities, owner named Elias with wire-rimmed glasses and a skeptical squint. Found these in an estate sale, Hank lied smoothly, sliding the bag across the counter. Elias's eyes widened fractionally. He pulled a loop, probing edges, weights. Minutes stretched like taffy. "These are the real deal," Elias muttered, ally. "That 1893 S Morgan alone. $500,000 easy. Where'd you really get 'em?" Hank shrugged, forcing nonchalance. "Family attic, clean title on the car." Elias nodded slow, quoting figures that blurred into millions. 234 to be precise, if the trunk haul matched. Hank's world tilted. Driving home, wipers slapping rhythm, he gripped the wheel white-knuckled. Greed whispered upgrades. New shop, beach house. Caution screamed rivals. Word would leak. Back at the trailer, he chained the trunk shut, padlock gleaming. Sleep evaded him that night, ears straining for footsteps in the gravel. By morning, a black sedan idled across the street, tinted windows hiding eyes that knew too much. Hank's hand hovered near his tire iron. The coins burned in the dark, a fortune's curse uncoiling. Hank didn't sleep. The garage lights flickered like distant lightning, casting long shadows over the Beetle's rusted frame. He paced the oil-stained concrete, the duffel bag zipped tight under his workbench, its weight pulling at the floorboards like an anchor in shallow water. Every creak from the street outside snapped his gaze to the window. The sedan hadn't moved, engine humming low, a predator's patient breath. He grabbed a single coin from the bag, a 1913 Liberty Head nickel, edges worn smooth by decades of secrets. Slipping it into his pocket, he fired up his laptop in the back office, the screen's glow carving hollows under his eyes. Forums first, anonymous posts on rare coin boards. Found this in a junker. Worth a look? Images uploaded, heart pounding as replies trickled in. Holy, that's the real deal. 5 figures easy. Where'd it come from? Then private messages. DM me pics of the rest. Serious buyer. Dawn bled grey into the sky when the sedan's door cracked open. A man stepped out, mid-40s, suit crisp against the morning chill, scanning the garage like he owned the block. Hank ducked behind the workbench, pulse hammering. The guy lit a cigarette. Smoke curling toward Hank's door, then typed on his phone. Not a cop. Too polished, too deliberate. Hank's mind raced. Collector? Thief? Someone who'd tracked the car's VIN from a forgotten auction. He waited until the man slid back into the sedan and pulled away, slow, taillights fading into traffic. Hank bolted the door, dragged the bag to his truck bed under a tarp, and hit the road before the coffee shops opened. First stop, a rural pawn shop 2 counties over, run by Old Man Greer, who'd fence anything without questions. The place smelled of dust and regret, shelves sagging with forgotten heirlooms. Greer squinted at the nickel under his loupe. Son, this ain't pocket change. Part of the McNally hoard, vanished in 74. Folks say the owner tucked it away before. Vanishing himself. His voice dropped. Words out on these boards. You're stirring ghosts. Hank's throat tightened. Just need a quiet appraiser. No headlines. Greer pocketed Adair's fee. Try Elena Voss in the city, ex-numismatist, low profile. But watch your back. Hordes like this draw wolves. By noon, Hank was threading Chicago's back alleys, the truck's shocks groaning over potholes. Elena's shop hid in a brownstone basement, door buzzer labeled Antiques. She was sharp-eyed, 50s, with a ledger thicker than a Bible. Coins spilled across velvet as she sorted them, double eagles, flowery Indian heads, rarities gleaming like buried stars. 234 million, give or take market swings, she murmured, calculator clicking. But provenance? 0. IRS'll claw half before you blink. And that's if no one claims prior ownership. Hank leaned in. Claims how? Car was impounded in 74, auctioned cheap. Driver never surfaced. Rumors of a collector syndicate. Shadow network buys silence with cash or pressure. Her eyes flicked to the street. You tailed. He nodded, spotting the sedan again, parked casual across the avenue. Elena slid a card. My fence can liquidate slow, 10% cut. But move fast. These things echo. Back on the highway, paranoia coiled tighter. Hank swapped plates on his truck at a rest stop, ditched his phone in a dumpster. The bag rode shotgun now, a silent passenger whispering temptations. Quit the garage. Vanish to Mexico, live invisible. But doubt gnawed. Who knew about the Beetle? The auction yard? A leak? Night fell as he holed up in a no-tell motel off I-90, room 17, curtains drawn. He counted coins by flashlight, stacking them into pyramids that toppled at every noise. Footsteps in the hall, a key scraping next door, then a knock, soft, insistent. Hank gripped the tire iron, breath shallow. Who? Maintenance, came the muffled reply. Too smooth, accent faint, not local. He peered through the peephole. Empty hall. But the sedan idled in the lot, headlights off, silhouette shifting inside. The coins gleamed on the bed. Fortune's promise twisting into chains. Hank realized this wasn't just money. It was a map to someone else's unished business, and he'd stamped his name on it. If you're hooked on this edge-of-your-seat tale, smash that subscribe button, share with a friend who's into hidden treasures, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Let's keep the mystery rolling. Dawn cracked the horizon as Hank plotted his next move, the bag heavier than ever. But the sedan's engine growled to life outside, following at a distance. No running now. The hunt had flipped. Hank gripped the wheel of the old pickup, ashes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. The sedan lingered 3 cars back, its tinted windows like black voids swallowing the morning light. He ditched the Beetle at a remote lot hours ago, transferring the bag of coins to his truck under cover of night. 234 million in rare silver and gold pieces, verified by a discreet appraiser he'd paid cash to meet in a diner booth. But knowledge like that spread like rust on metal. He turned off the highway onto a cracked side road, winding through pine thickets outside Boise, Idaho. The air smelled of damp earth and exhaust. No more motels, no more calls. The appraiser had vanished after their meeting, phone dead. Coincidence? Hank's knuckles whitened. He'd fixed engines for 20 years, hands calloused from wrenches, life a grind of oil changes and evictions. This windfall was supposed to rewrite everything. Debts paid, a quiet ranch, freedom. Now it chained him, shortcut, lose them here. He punched the gas, gravel spitting under tires. The sedan surged forward, weaving through a logging truck, closer. Hank's mind raced. Who were they? Original owner's kin, coin hunters tipped off by a leak, his own greed whispering doubts. He veered into a narrow logging trail, branches clawing the truck's sides like jaws. The sedan hesitated at the entrance, then followed, slower now, cautious, pulse hammering. Hank killed the engine behind a cluster of boulders. Silence dropped like a shroud. He slung the bag over his shoulder, 50 pounds of fortune, clinking softly, and slipped into the woods on foot. Footsteps muffled by needles. 50 yards in, he crouched, breath shallow. The sedan's door creaked open. 2 figures emerged, suits crisp despite the dawn chill, one tall with a clipped stride, the other stocky, scanning with a phone's glow. "Tracks end here," the tall one muttered, voice carrying on the wind. "He knows we're close." Stocky grunted. "Boss wants those coins intact, no mistakes." Hank's stomach twisted. Boss? Organized then, not amateurs. He edged backward, bag dragging against ferns. A twig snapped underfoot. Freeze. They spun toward the sound. Hands dipping into jackets. 10 seconds stretched eternal. Hank bolted, weaving through trunks, lungs burning. Branches whipped his face. Behind, pursuit crashed. Steady, relentless. He burst into a clearing, an abandoned mill looming like a skeleton. Rusted machinery hulked in shadows. Inside, he barricaded the door with a beam, heart slamming ribs, bag hidden under floorboards. Footsteps circled outside, knock, polite almost. "Mr. Grady," the tall voice called, "we know you're in there. Hand over the D. We represent the estate. Legal claim." "Estate?" Hank pressed against the wall, sweat tracing his spine. Lies. The seller was a junkyard ghost, no papers, cash deal, but these suits reeked of leverage, forged docs, maybe threats unspoken. He spotted a rusted hatch in the corner. Basement? Risk it. Whispered debate outside. Flush him or wait? Wait. He's cornered. Hank pried the hatch, dropping into darkness. Cobwebs clung. He navigated by feel, bag secured tight. A faint glow ahead. Egress tunnel from old operations. Crawl, inches at a time. Claustrophobia clawed his throat, memories of tight engine bays flashing. Push through. Minutes later, he emerged in a ravine, dawn's gold filtering through leaves. Truck still hidden. Sedan parked at the mill now. He hotwired a nearby ATV. Poachers left it unlocked, roaring off parallel to the road. Mirror check. Suits scrambling, piling into their ride. Distance grew. Hank aimed for Caldwell, a coin dealer he'd researched. Independent, no chains. Paranoia gnawed. Trust no one. Sell in pieces, melt them? No. Value in rarity. He needed a plan, allies maybe. An old army buddy, ex-cop turned security. Risky call. By noon he pulled into a strip mall lot, blending with lunch traffic. Phone booth, untraceable, dialed. Pete? Hank? Need a favor, big. Pete's voice gravelly. Heard rumors. Coins. More. Meet at the old hangar, dusk. Hank hung up, scanning. Sedan nowhere. Volt's security prickled. He slipped into a sporting goods store, grabbing a lockbox, cash for burner phone. Bag inside now, disguised as tools. Dusk painted the sky bruise purple as he reached the hangar, a forgotten airstrip on the outskirts. Pete's truck idled, lights off. Hank approached slow, hand near pocket knife. Pete stepped out, grizzled beard, eyes sharp. Show me. Hank unzipped the bag. Coins gleamed, Mercuries, Morgans, rarities stacked neat. Pete whistled low. Estates circling, feds too if it hits light. Hank nodded. Help me fence safe. Split fair. Pete eyed him. You're in deep. They tailed you? Lost 'em for now. Shadows shifted beyond the fence. Headlights pierced the gloom. Sedan again closing fast. Pete tensed. Company. Hank zipped the bag. Run or stand. Hunt flipped back. If you're gripped by Hank's desperate gamble, smash that like button, subscribe for the twists ahead, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and share this with a friend who loves a good chase. Engines revved. Pete drew a sidearm, clean, licensed. Your call, brother. Hank swallowed. Fight or vanish deeper. The noose tightened. Hank's eyes darted to the rearview mirror. Pete's truck loomed larger, grill like a predator's maw. Dust clouds billowed behind, swallowing the desert road. Hank gripped the wheel, knuckles whitening. The Beetle coughed under acceleration. Old engine protesting, but loyal. Pete's voice crackled over the radio again. Pull over, Hank. We both know this ends one way. Those coins. They ain't yours by right. Hank floored it. Tires screeched on cracked asphalt. The noose? It was Pete's history with the car. Whispered rumors from the junkyard owner. Pete had owned the Beetle decades ago, lost it in a bad deal. Now, with millions gleaming in the trunk, old grudges surfaced like buried roots. Wind whipped through the cracked window. Hank's mind raced faster than the speedometer. Flashback. The purchase, $160 at a rural auction in Arizona. Rusted shell, forgotten relic. He popped the trunk for parts, and there they were, crates of shimmering rarities, pre-war silver eagles, gold sovereigns stacked like forgotten promises. Appraised overnight, $234 million, a fortune that could rebuild his life. Erased debts from his failed garage, but Pete showed up at dawn, claimed Dare's rights, eyes cold as desert nights. Family heirloom, he'd said. Lies. Hank knew better. Pete was a collector, ruthless in shadowed deals. The road twisted into canyons, red rock walls closing in. Pete's truck surged closer, bumper kissing the Beetle's tail. Hank swerved, heart pounding a war drum. Fight meant bullets he couldn't dodge forever. Vanish meant ditching the car, the coins, starting over empty-handed. Radio spat static. You think you can outrun this? I got eyes everywhere, cops on payroll, trackers in the wind. Hank smashed the radio silent. Sweat stung his eyes. He spotted a narrow side trail, barely a goat path veering into scrubland. Risky. But Pete's bulkier truck. No chance. He yanked the wheel. Beetle fishtailed, gravel exploding. Pete braked hard, horn blaring fury. Hank gunned it deeper, branches clawing the paint like desperate jurs. If you're hooked on this high-stakes desert showdown, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment where you're watching from. Let's see those global chasers. Twilight bled across the sky, painting mesas in fire. Hank killed the lights, coasting silent into a dry wash. Foot off the gas, engine whispered to a halt. He slipped out, crouched low. Trunk key burned in his pocket, coins his anchor, his curse. Footsteps crunched distant. Pete on foot now. Hank peered through thorny brush. Silhouette approached, flashlight beams slicing darkness. Methodical, patient. Hank's breath shallowed. He circled wide, pulse thundering. The coins, proof of value, sat heavy in a duffel he'd grabbed earlier. $500,000 extracted, rest locked tight, enough to bait or bury. Pete paused, scanning. Hank, I smell your fear. Come out, we split it fair. 50-50. Liar. Pete's empire thrived on solos. Whispers from old-timers. He'd vanished rivals before. Fortunes redirected. Hank edged closer, shadow to shadow. A loose rock tumbled. Pete spun, beam lancing near. Hank froze, statue still. You bought low, found high, but ownership, that's mine. Pete's voice dropped, intimate menace. Remember Rita? She chose wrong too. Rita, Pete's ex-partner, disappeared years back after a score. Hank's gut twisted. Connection clicked. Rita sourced the Beetle, hid the horde before Pete turned. Moon crested, silvering the wash. Hank lunged from cover, duffel swinging low, connected with Pete's knee, a muffled thud, licensed sidearm skittering into dust. Pete grunted, rolled, snatched it up. Enough games. Hank dove behind a boulder. Shots cracked, echoes booming, ricochets sparking stone. Not aimed to kill, warnings carving the air. Hank's mind fractured options. Surrender the trunk, walk with scraps, or press, claim it all. He feinted left, scrambled right. Pete pivoted, beam wild. Hank tackled low, momentum crashing them into gravel. Fists flew, blunt impacts, grunts of exertion. Pete stronger, but Hank's desperation fueled precision. A knee to ribs winded Pete. Hank pinned, wrenching the sidearm free. It's over, coins stay mine. Walk away. Pete laughed, ragged. You keep 'em, they own you. Hunted forever. Sirens wailed faint. Pete's call or coincidence. Hank zip-tied Pete's wrists with scavenged wire, breath ragged, dragged him to shade, secured, trunk beckoned, fortune waiting judgment. Dawn crept, painting hope on horizon, but trust eroded, cops en route, loyalties blurred. Hank fired up the Beetle, coins rattling promise. One last glance at bound Pete. Your call now, brother. He vanished into rising sun, road endless, weight of wealth both wings and chains. The chase evolved, not ended. If this twist has you on edge, smash like, subscribe for the ale, share with your thrill-seeking crew, and comment your guess. Does Hank keep it all? Hank gripped the wheel of the rumbling Beetle, the engine's growl a defiant roar against the sirens wailing closer. Tires screeched as he veered onto a forgotten back road, the trunk's hidden fortune rattling like 1,000 secrets begging to spill. Rain slicked the windshield, blurring the pursuing lights. Federal agents, he'd bet, tipped off by the coin dealer's frantic call. No wings to lift him free, no chains to bind his conscience. Just raw choice, hurtling toward him at 60 miles an hour. He'd bought the '74 Bug for a steal, $106 at a rust-eaten auction lot in rural Ohio, back when gas was cheap and dreams still fit in a greasy toolbox. Hank was no saint, just a 48-year-old grease monkey with calloused hands and a divorce decree gathering dust. The car was a project, a faded yellow relic with dents like battle scars. But prying open that trunk, it changed everything. Stacks of canvas bags, heavy as regret, bulging with pre-1933 gold and silver pieces, rare mercuries, Indian heads, Liberty Eagles. Experts later pegged it at $234 million, vanished decades ago from a collector's vault, whispered to be tied to old prohibition runners who'd stashed it and faded into legend. The first rush? Pure fire. Hank's mind raced. Pay off debts, buy that lakeside cabin, vanish to Mexico. But whispers gnawed, legends of cursed D's, owners who departed early clutching windfalls. He tested one coin at a quiet dealer in Cleveland. The man's eyes widened, phone snatched before Hank could blink. Now this. Lights flashing in the rear view, a helicopter's thump overhead. He downshifted hard, the bug fishtailing on gravel, short bursts of acceleration. Breathe, calculate. Flashback sliced through, unlocking the trunk under flickering garage fluorescence. The metallic gleam hit like sunlight on water. He hauled one bag inside, coins spilling, each a tiny fortress of forgotten power. Appraisals on the dark web confirmed, uncirculated rarities, enough to rewrite his life. But then the knocks started. Strange calls, shadows at the shop's edge, paranoia, or rightful heirs scenting blood in the water. Road narrowed. Hank punched the dash, mind-fracturing options. Turn himself in. Does rights maybe snag 10%, enough for security? Fight the claim. Lawyers would devour half. Courts drag for years. Or dump it all in the river, walk away clean. The chopper dipped low, spotlight pinning him like a specimen. He swerved into dense woods, branches clawing the roof. Engine whined, protesting the assault. Heart slamming, he killed the lights, coasted into a thicket. Silence fell, broken only by dripping rain. Agents' voices crackled over radios, close but blind. Hank slipped out, toolbox in hand. No guns, no glory, just tools and grit. He pried the trunk again, bags glinting under moonlight. One last look. The weight pressed. Not just metal, but temptation's full measure. Decision crystallized in the downpour. He loaded select bags into his truck, hidden nearby, enough for a fresh start, modest, untraceable. The rest dragged deep into underbrush, coordinates etched in memory for later. Not greed's throne, but survival's foothold. He fired up the truck, melted into night roads toward a border town contact, discreet fences for the keepers. Dawn broke as Hank crossed into Canada, papers clean, the Beetle's ghost trailing in his mind. Coins funneled through layers, some laundered into tools, a small shop up north. No palaces, no parades, just quiet command of his fate. Feds chased echoes. Headlines faded to mysterious abandonment. Heirs. They got scraps from the recovered cash, courtesy of anonymous tip. Years later, Hank sips coffee by the lake, shop thriving, debts dust. The fortune. A scar, teaching fortune favors the cunning, not the grabbers. He keeps a single coin, liberty-seated, worn smooth, on his dash. Reminder, chase what you can carry. If this edge of your seat tail gripped you, hit like. Subscribe for more hidden fortunes and high-stakes twists. Share with your crew and comment, what would you do with that trunk?